Hello, buddy. All right. Welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Tuesday, July 1st, meaning, of course, we are halfway through 2025. Hopefully, everybody's had a good year thus far. Of course, as I said, we're halfway through. So now we're on the latter half of it. Of course, we do have Independence Day coming up on Friday here. So, of course, friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer questions to the best of my ability. So, we're going to, of course, give people a chance to come in and before we get started. So I'll probably talk a little bit more about what's on tap here in a couple minutes here. Um, hmm. Let me see. And nothing new there. All right. So, anyways, all right. So we're just past the 2 minute mark here. Okay. So today finished off cartoon watchings for July of 1938. Of course, saw was introduced to Buzzy Boop, who happens to be the younger cousin of Betty Boop. Um, let's see. Also saw Porky making a deal with chickens who were trying to get into his garden. Let's see, as well as. All right, I'm going to try something here. I'm going to put some music on for a moment. I'll be right back. Just got to take care of something real quick. Be right back. All right, I'm back. So let's see now. So now we're coming up on 4 minutes now. So I guess it's a good time to talk about what's on tap tonight. So I've got three articles I'm going to go over tonight. First one, first one is going to be from Bounding Into Comics, and then the next two from Bleeding Fool. Let's see now. So the first one we talk about Wonder Woman writer Tom King returns to Batman in 2026. Says new DC story will have the best art in comics, maybe one of the best things I ever wrote. So let's see about that. Also, in the other two articles we're going to be looking at, of course, from Bleeding Fool, we got some more news coming out of the whole Diamond Comic Distributors bankruptcy issue going on right now. We'll get into that a little bit. And also, there's an autobiography out on Will Eisner that some people are saying might get some people up in arms about. So, with all that, plus, of course, we'll have the Rest and Rabbit. We'll look back to last night's Monday Night Raw, look ahead to tonight's NXT, as well as talk about some other stuff going on particularly with some of the matches that were announced for next weekend, Saturday night's main event, and Evolution, and then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then? So, let me pull up the. And as I said, a friendly reminder, of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's get into this. The first article we're going to go over tonight here, and I am aware I am aware that Jim Shooter did pass away. For those of you who are wondering why I'm not doing I'm not doing anything with talking about him as of yet. There's no actual news stories out on that yet, so I'm just waiting for somebody to write an article to go over to do that. So just in case you're wondering, but I am aware that Jim Shooter did pass away. So with that being said, let's get into these articles then. So Wonder Woman writer Tom King returns to Batman in 2026. Says new DC story, quote, will have the best art in comics, unquote, and, quote, maybe one of the best things I ever wrote, unquote. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Article by Spencer McCooley, published June 28, 2025. So this article came out this past Saturday. So let's get into this. In perhaps one of the most heartbreaking confirmations to hit the Dark Knight's world since the news of Heath Ledger's passing, former Batman and current Wonder Woman scribe Tom King had revealed that thanks to a direct request from DC, 2026 will see him return to the streets of Gotham with a wholly original tale. And there are a lot of people who are very critical of Tom King's work because he likes to put a lot of his left-leaning ideologies into the stories, which goes against the very grain of who Batman and Bruce Wayne are. So, all right, so King, who in the years since helping his fellow CIA agents plan the 2003 invasion of Iraq, has contributed his self-aggrandizing writing talents to a number of DC books like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Volume 1, Rorschach, Volume 1, and perhaps most controversially, Batman Volume 3 broke the news of his upcoming reunion with the Cape Crusader during a recent appearance on the Batman Book Club podcast. Near the end of their time together, the DC mainstay was asked by his host, Ryan Lower, as to whether or not he had, quote, more Batman stories in you, unquote. To which he bluntly confirmed, quote, yes, I just wrote a Batman story. I'll keep writing. Okay, there's a I don't know if he actually said keep or if that was just simply a typo error or whatever. Writing Batman stories until they kick me off, unquote. Quote, I got approached. I was in brackets DC offices doing whatever, meeting with editors, and the editor of Batman, in brackets Rob Levin, came up to me and he's like, quote, hey man, I got 40 pages of Batman. You want to write it? You can have any artist you want, unquote, said King, recalling of the events that led to finding himself back in Gotham. Quote, I don't think I can announce the artist, but I was like, in smaller quotes, I have an idea, and in brackets, the artist I want, unbracketed, may be the best artist in comics, unquote. And they said, quote, in small quote, yeah. And the artist said, yes. And I wrote the story. It may be one of the best things I ever wrote. It'll be out next year, unquote. Hmm. Hey, Doodlebug, let's see how you're doing today. We also lost Batman VA Kevin Conroy. Yeah, earlier this year, I believe. I believe it was either earlier this year or late last year. I know it was within the last year, though. You were right about that. We did lose him. Batman VA from the basically from the DCAU um, projects like Batman the animated series, Superman, Justice League, all those. So, anyways, pressed by Lower as to whether the tale would release in as part of the main Batman series or as its own separate one shot. King admitted, quote, I think it's a standalone issue. I have no idea, in bracket 11, was literally like, in smaller quotes, you can have 40 pages, do whatever you want with Batman. It was on a whim, and I was walking by his desk, unquote. Quote, it was a little bit of existential crisis, unquote, the Wonder Woman writer continued. Quote, when you're like it has to be Batman and Elmer Fudd, in brackets a reference to his previous work on Batman Elmer Fudd, Volume 1, number one shot, unbracketed, unsmaller quote. Um, then your story is limited as to what you can write. But when someone's like, in small quotes, it can be Batman, any era, anything you want, whatever you want, suddenly you're like, bleep, it's too, in small quotes there, bleep, it's too much, give me some restraint, unquote. So actually, he complained about the fact that it was too open for him. Oh man, editors probably haven't heard that one too many times. Wait a minute, you're giving me too much freedom here. I actually want some. I want you to actually put some chains on me. Oh boy. Hmm. He voiced the evil vice president dude in the Netflix Devil May Cry series. Yeah, he's done a few things. And Harry Wonder. Hello, Harry. Get off? What do you mean by get off? uh, anyways. Hmm. Quote, I'm not a guy who has trouble coming up with ideas. Knock on wood. I can always come up with a good idea, unquote, King explained. Quote, I'm good at that part of the game. And I just could not, okay, so another editorial issue there. Either that or he actually did say could not. Think of an idea for this Batman thing. Because obviously more bad stories are written about Batman than any fictional character. So first you have to have a good idea. So I wonder what he thinks is a bad Batman story. I almost have to wonder what that means, because some people there are some out there who you're too old. Well, that's your opinion, and you're welcome to it, um, Harry Wonder. You know, I kind of hope you would enjoy the content, but if you don't, you don't. You know, you can always, you don't have to be here. I appreciate the hours, though. You want to give me the hours? That's fine. And just to let you know, in this case you spelled two wrong when you're saying you're two. In this context, two is spelled TOO. So, of course, a friendly reminder to you guys, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people on here. That'd be appreciated. Um, Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, I don't know what these are now. Hmm. Anyways, let's see now. Oh yeah. All right, because obviously more bad. Okay, yeah, we. So and then you have to check it against your knowledge of Batman to be like, in smaller quotes, that's been done before, in smaller quote. So between those two things, I kept coming up with ideas and being like, quote, no, Tom, you've already done that. No, Scott, in brackets Snyder, already did that. No, Grant, in brackets Morrison, did that. No, Steve Englehart did that, unquote. All right. Well, the thing is though, when you have 80 years, let's see. So Batman, of course, was introduced in Detective Comics number 27 back in 1939, I believe. 1939. So that's what 11 months, like 86 years ago. Well, you've been at this for 86 years. Eventually, people are gonna run out of stories or out of new stories to write. It's just par for the course. Sometimes you can become a little formulaic, but um, anyways, hmm. Anyways, now getting back to the article, of course. Quote: What I was going for was like whatever happens to the Man of Tomorrow, a story that just stands alone, but it's like a perfect story. Unquote. King further detailed of his creative process. Quote: I just couldn't come up with it, and finally I was on a plane and I was just sitting there, like in smaller quotes, Tom, think, in smaller quote. And I was like, this reminds me of this stupid thing, in smaller quotes. And I went, smaller quote, oh, that's it, unquote. Quote, I was so relieved, unquote, he included. Quote, it was such a moment of relief, like with that core of an idea, you could do something. I'm really, really proud of how it turned out. Um, and okay, so some editorial here. Again, like I said, it's going to have the best art in comics when it comes out, unquote. Is that supposed to be Mongol right there? Yes. At present, DC has yet to officially announce either when or in what format King's Batman story will hit shelves, as well as the identity of King's artist collaborator. However, given that the last time he handled Batman, he wrote a scene in which Catwoman one shots three generations of Flashes, it's likely fans are not waiting with bated breath for that information. Hmm. All right, so there we go with that. The first article we went through. Um, Again, a friendly reminder to you guys, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's now go ahead and look. Let's get to the next story, which is over from Bleeding Fool. Got a couple of stories from Bleeding Fool to look at. Okay, so here's the first one we're looking at. See if there are any more people I can invite that might be interested coming on here. Hmm. Hmm. Anyways, getting back to the articles in here. Get to this next one here. Consignment or confiscation? Diamond's bankruptcy leaves publishers guessing. Article by Chris Braley, published June 29th, which of course is this past Sunday. So 2 days ago. So yeah, there's been some tanglements up. There are people suing for fraud in all this. So I mean, just let's see what's going on here now. Consignment or confiscation. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see. So Diamond Comic Distributors, once the main supplier for comic book shops across the United States, is now at the center of a major bankruptcy case. The company has filed a plan to sell off inventory from 128 of its creditors to pay back its debt to Chase Bank. This move was being made by the original Diamond Company, not the new owners Ad Populum, who took over recently. Ad Populum is who we will refer to as quote unquote New Diamond. Chase Bank has been supporting Diamond's daily operations, including paying for consultants and bankruptcy administrators, even as Diamond's value dropped by $10 million. The loan was originally backed by other companies owned by Steve Geppi, but the amount borrowed has been increased 4 times. Probably not a good sign, I would say. Recently, the New Diamond stopped sending publishers their inventory. Many publishers had their books stored at Diamond's warehouses on a consignment basis, meaning Diamond did not own the stock but was responsible for selling it to the comic shops. The new plan explains why shipments were paused. The inventory was being held as part of the bankruptcy process. Whoa. So basically, because of all this, apparently they can't continue to send out the books. And is that why they're asking if it's consignment or confiscation? Diamond claims that 128 companies, including major names like Marvel, DC, several toy companies, lost their rights to their inventory because they did not file a UCC-1 financing statement before the bankruptcy. According to Diamond's filing, quote, none of the vendors that provided consigned inventory to any of the debtors filed a UCC-1 financing statement against any of the debtors prior to the petition date, unquote. A UCC-1 is a legal form that gives notice that a creditor has an interest in a debtor's property. All right. Guess it sounds like a very piece of important paperwork they have to take care of. Some companies, such as the Pokemon Company, are not on the list of affected creditors, likely because they objected early in the process. However, this type of technicality is common in bankruptcy cases and may be upheld in court. Diamond's official plan states that they want to sell or dispose of the consigned inventory to maximize its value for the estate. The company says the consignors did not meet the legal requirements to protect their interest in the inventory. So Diamond believes it has the right to sell the goods free of any claims from the original owners. So they're basically trying to sell the property that they basically were being charged with holding on to and selling for the other companies. So instead of giving the money back to the companies that owned it, they're now sounds like they're pocketing. This is not something that sounds very, very right. But I think the company is seeking court approval to move forward with these sales as quickly and efficiently as possible to generate the best results for the bankruptcy estate. The list of affected vendors is long and includes many well-known comic book publishers and toy companies. For those who wrote off their inventory and debts to Diamond early on, the current situation may be less of a shock. Sounds like those companies may have knew something like this was going to probably happen and decided to get out while they could. Meanwhile, the new Diamond has also changed its payment policies. Publishers are not being paid for books that have already been shipped, and comic shops are being asked to pay up front for their orders. This has led to confusion and frustration among both publishers and retailers. Some publishers, such as Fantagraphics and Fair Square Graphics, have publicly stated that Diamond does not own their inventory and that the company is selling books without paying the publishers. Fantagraphics posted a message to retailers saying, quote, Diamond does not own any Fantagraphics inventory. That inventory is warehoused by Diamond on consignment, and its disposition is at our discretion, not Diamond ad populums. Unquote. So I get what they meant by, I guess, consignment or confiscation. Sounds basically like, I guess it sounds basically like Diamond is confiscating this property to sell for its own purposes instead of selling for the company that actually owned it. So they encourage retailers to order directly from other distributors instead. Other publishers have reported similar issues, with some describing the situation as quote-unquote fraud and saying their books are being held quote-unquote hostage. A lack of payment and communication from the new Diamond has led many publishers to stop shipping products to them altogether. Man, I kind of wish RJ was in the chat, because then I'm sure he would have some stuff to say on this. I'm gonna have to ask him, see what he knows about this stuff here. Other publishers have reported similar issues, and some. Oh, I'm sorry. That's actually just read that part. All right. Retailers are also feeling the impact. Some have noted that their orders from Diamond are much smaller than in the past, that the company's new minimum order requirements are difficult to meet. The loss of consigned inventory could be devastating for many publishers, especially if they do not receive any of the money owed to them. Eric Reynolds of Fantagraphics put out a statement he posted on a retail forum last week, announcing that they too would not be shipping to Diamond anymore. Well, yeah, that usually is what happens if you're holding on to something to sell for somebody else, and then you decide you're just going to take the property, sell it yourself for your purposes. People are going to stop. People are going to stop, trusting you to do that, to take care of that. So. A note to retailers ordering Fantagraphic. So this is, I guess, from the statement from Fantagraphics. Ordering Fantagraphic books through Diamond. Effective immediately, Fantagraphics will no longer be distributed through Diamond Comics distributors. When Diamond declared bankruptcy in January, Fantagraphics and Diamond worked together in good faith to maintain market stability and avoid any further disruption than was necessary. While all invoices prior to the bankruptcy filing were immediately frozen, in parentheses, and remain unpaid under Chapter 11 proceedings, Diamond continued to act responsibly and reassured us that business would continue as usual and invoices would be paid on time, which they were up until May 16th, which was, of course, about a month and a half ago, I'd say, the day that Ad Populum took over. Since then, the company has gone silent with no payments for any books sold under the new ownership. Repeated attempts to communicate with Diamond and discuss a payment schedule have been ignored. So I guess what they're saying is this is more generally something that was done by Ad Populum, the new company. The new company just figured they just throw out whatever arrangements the old company had because they were a new company. I don't think it's supposed to work that way though. So at the end of May, we suspended shipping new releases to Diamond till they caught up on their payments. This has not happened. Last week, in response to a routine request to transfer stock, Ad Populum replied, please be advised this order will not be fulfilled as our legal team has instructed us to halt all product transfers and NCR requests, seek, in brackets there. At this time, we apologize for the inconvenience. Thanks, NCR team. In parentheses, we routinely need to restock our Seattle warehouse that fulfills our e-commerce business. Parentheses. Diamond does not own any Fantagraphics inventory. The inventory is warehoused by Diamond on consignment, and its disposition is at our discretion, not Diamond Ad Populum's. Although we have not received a ransom note, Ad Populum is now effectively holding hostage inventory that they do not own, while apparently continuing to sell that inventory and not paying us for those sales. In parentheses, we have received weekly sales reports for books they do not pay us for. Unparenthesed. Please do not order Fantagraphics books and comics through Diamond, even for in-stock inventory, because there is no indication that Ad Populum intends to pay Fantagraphics, and thereby its authors, for those sales. We encourage all retailers who previously ordered books through Diamond to ship their order to one of our other distribution partners, including Lunar, W. Norton, and Ingram Books in the US and Turnaround in the UK. Anyone with any questions about how to best obtain our books is encouraged to email Colin Blanchett at colin@fantagraphics.com. All right. So now back to Chris's commentary on this. Problems at Diamond go back several years. Company lost DC Comics as a client during the pandemic after a disagreement over shipping policies, which took away a large portion of Diamond's business. Some industry insiders believe there were deeper issues in the relationship between Diamond and DC that had been building for years. The new owners of Diamond Ad Populum have a history of buying distressed companies. In a previous case involving the bookstore chain Hastings, Ad Populum's owner was accused in court of using company funds for unrelated investments, which contributed to the company's bankruptcy. The case ended in a settlement. Almost sounds like Ad Populum might be using some of these bankruptcy proceedings to basically fleece the system and get rich. That's what it kind of sounds like. But anyways, since Ad Populum took over Diamond, there has been little communication with employees, publishers, and retailers. Former employees had described low morale and a lack of direction publishers and retailers are now looking for new partners to distribute their products, and some are considering legal action to recover their inventory or unpaid debts. As the bankruptcy case moves forward, the future of Diamond and its relationship with publishers and retailers remains uncertain. Many in the industry are waiting to see how the courts will rule on the sale of consigned inventory and whether publishers will be able to recover any of their losses. All right, so there we go with that one, that article. So we're got through 2 of the 3 articles tonight. So we got one more we're gonna go through. Then we'll move on to like the wrestling wrap up and then the this day in each history segments. So let's get to the final article then here. We gotta go back to it. So now coming up here. All right, so here we go. Will this new biography of Will Eisner upset ideologue? The article by Avi Green, published July 1st, which is, of course, today. Of course, Will Eisner, of course, here is showing us the Spirit, which is one of the characters he was known for creating, among others. So let's see what Avi has to say about this situation. So let's see what's going on here. Unpacked reports. There's a new biography published about the late cartoonist Will Eisner, the earliest artist to develop the graphic novel format. And this is from the Unpacked article, as it were. Long before graphic novels lined bestseller lists and earned literary accolades, Will Eisner pioneered the form, treating comics not as pulp but as art. Now, a new biography in panels tells his story the way he told so many others, through ink and imagination. Then, as we get more into the more aspects of the article here. And again, a friendly reminder, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, continue on here. Quote, Will Eisner, a comics biography, unquote, the new graphic novel by Boston-based artist Dan Mazur and writer Steve Weiner, traces the Jewish writer's life from his early days in hustling and Depression-era New York to his groundbreaking work on his groundbreaking graphic novel, The Spirit, quote unquote. Spirit was also, of course, a comic book character and a news comic strip in the papers as well. And his later reinvention of comics as a literary form. And further answering in the article, Eisner's contributions to the comic book form are well documented, but what's sometimes overlooked is how deeply his Jewish identity shaped his work, as Mazur and Weiner explain in the biography. Eisner didn't just pioneer a new visual language, he used it to explore themes of diaspora, resilience, assimilation, and faith. Actually, Will Eisner was very active in of course, the 30s and 40s. We've read a number of his stories here on the channel during the historical comic retrospect. Um, I'm gonna go off. I need to go off camera for just a quick moment here because I need to go check something. Some noise going on outside my room here. So I'm just gonna go check that out. But I'll put some music on for the moment while I'm gone. I'll be. All right, sorry about that, folks. Just had to go check something. I was hearing something outside my window. It sounds like one of my neighbors is having some kind of party or something like that because I could basically hear his microphone stuff coming through my window here. So, um, but anyways, I'm sure some of you had stuff like that happen before. So, anyways, let's get back to the article here. Oh yeah, this is, I believe, Avi responding to what was just being said here. Yes, but will current and future generations appreciate his viewpoints and potential politics? I vaguely recall reading he may have disapproved of the feminist movement, possibly due to how phony it actually is. And chances are there's leftists out there who'll sadly despise him for that, including for what his last graphic novel was inspired by, which isn't actually mentioned here. And now we go back to the unpacked article. When asked directly about Eisner's Judaism, Mazur um, suggested that while he was raised in an Orthodox household, Eisner was always pretty much a secular guy, quote unquote, and became more, quote unquote, Jewish as he got older. Wiener points to it to, quote, a contract with God, unquote, widely considered the first modern graphic novel, as a pivotal example. The book, published in 1978, centers on the sorrows of a Jewish tenement community in the Bronx. Eisner's final major work was, quote unquote, The Plot, which tackled the notorious anti Semitic hoax, quote, Protocols of the Elders of Zion, unquote. Let's see. So this is Avi responding to what we just read. What prompted Eisner to develop his last graphic novel was the discovery the Protocols book was being promoted by Islamic anti-Semites on the web in the early 2000s. And unsurprisingly, that otherwise goes unmentioned here. Like the editors at Unpacked and their interviewees don't have the courage to bring it up, which is really no shock and nothing to admire either. Now, mind you, just so you guys, for those of you who don't know or haven't been around as long, um, at least from what I've been able to figure out, some things I've been able to kind of figure out based on his writings. Avi is, of course, Jewish himself, so he is going to have that kind of lean. So, always, he's very he, like a lot of people, are very critical of the current, comics scene. So that's always to be taken into consideration when evaluating his writings. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. Let's see. And there's more. Okay, so finishing this article off here. If the new graphic novel by Mazer um, doesn't clearly mention why Eisner thought to develop the plot graphic novel, then Mazer will be guilty of just what distressed many in the past decade: censorship of knowledge and fact. I'd like to appreciate that somebody thought of developing a biographical graphic novel about Eisner himself, and that's a great idea. But it won't be good if Mazer succumbs to PC himself in this era. That's never helpful. All right, so there we go with that one. So of course we're finished with the articles we're going to go over tonight. So with that, now we'll move on to the wrestling wrap up. As of course, we do have some things to talk about in regards to WWE. Looking back to last night's SmackDown or last night's Monday Night Raw. Note, and we'll talk more about this later in the week, of course. After Raw last night, to help to give its talent the 4th of July off, as well as to give them some extra rest for the week coming off of their recent trip to Saudi Arabia. WWE last night, after Raw went off the air, they decided to tape the SmackDown event as well. That SmackDown that was taped last night will air this Friday, the 4th, on Independence Day. No live version of it. We won't go over anything from that until Friday, but just letting you guys know it was taped last night. But what we are going to go over, of course, is what happened on last night's Raw, what came out of that, and then look forward to tonight's NXT. Again, looking ahead to some of the things that will be coming up in the next few weeks here. So on last night's Monday Night Raw, which came in the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary, airing on Netflix. The opening match saw a WWE World Tag Team Title match in which the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and JD McDonough, regained the WWE World Tag Team titles from New Day, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods. Of course, they had lost the titles to the Viking Raiders, only for the Viking Raiders to lose it to New Day, and now Judgment Day has Finn Balor and JD McDonough have regained the titles, thereby now giving all members, basically the current active members, anyways, of Judgment Day, all the titles. You have, of course, Balor and McDonough now the new, and for the second time, I believe, WWE World Tag Team titles. Dominic Mysterio is the Intercontinental Champion, and then Roxanne Perez. They've had Roxanne Perez now replace Liv Morgan in the women's tag title, as Liv Morgan just recently had surgery the other day on the shoulder she injured in her match against Kairi Sane. So, and last night the Judgment Day officially voted in Roxanne Perez into the Judgment Day, despite the fact that Raquel Rodriguez apparently had some misgivings about it. And you got to think that sitting at home right now, Liv Morgan's not too happy about it either. In a battle of two former stablemates in the, I guess, League of Nations or United Nations, whatever the faction was from a few years ago, Rusev defeated Sheamus in about 20 and a half minutes. In a match that was supposed to determine the number one contender to the Women's Intercontinental Championship, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria scored a double pin on each other, meaning that neither of them won. They both drew, basically, as Bayley was, I think, trying to execute a German suplex pin, but her shoulders were down, and so were Lyra Valkyria's. And then the main event saw Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed defeat Penta and Sami Zayn in a tag match. Now, you had a number of confrontations on last night's show. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley started the night off, confronting each other in the ring, setting up a match for the Evolution pay-per-view coming up on the 13th. Also, you had a few confrontations, including Seth Rollins initially confronting Gunther about trying to maybe theoretically possibly cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase on him then, only for CM Punk to come out and drive off, as Gunther was, of course, basically doing a promo against Goldberg, his upcoming opponent at Saturday night's main event. Then, as Punk was trying to leave, Gunther tried to grab him, and Punk shoved him down. So that's all that happened on last night's SmackDown. So looking ahead now to tonight's NXT. Looking ahead to tonight's NXT match. And of course, we will have more. So on last night's NXT, actually originally taped last week, a week ago, Booker T, Corey Graves, and Vic Joseph on commentary. So the opening match is going to be Joe Hendry, who will be preparing for his upcoming TNA World Title match at Slammiversary against Joe Hendry, and it was just announced in the last couple of days here that now is a triple threat match. So coming up at TNA Slammiversary on July 20th, 2 weeks from this Sunday, Trick Williams of NXT will be defending the TNA World Title against former champ Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. Well, in the lead up to that, of course, Joe Hendry will be taking on Wes Lee, who will have Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe in his corner. Lexis King takes on Miles Bourne in a singles match. Thea Hale will be taking on Laney Reed in a singles match. In a number one contendership match for the NXT title, Yoshiki Inamura, with Josh Briggs in the corner, will be taking on Jasper Troy. The next person here to win this match, I believe, will be getting the next shot at Obafemi. In a tag team match, Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley will be taking on Sol Ruka and Zarya in a situation that's been brewing over the last few weeks here. So, quick rundown on what's coming up next weekend's pay-per-views, of course. With so what has been officially announced as of last night, coming up for Saturday night's main event, and then actually, in fact, Also on next Saturday, NXT will be having its Great American Bash pay-per-view. I said Obafemi will defend the NXT title against the winner of tonight's number one contendership match at the Great American Bash from Center Stage Theater in Atlanta, Georgia next Saturday. Then we'll have Saturday night's main event, I believe also from Center Stage. You see, actually no, from the State Farm Arena next Saturday on NBC. Already officially signed now. Gunther defends the W World Heavyweight title against Goldberg. Seth Rollins will be taking on LA Knight, as LA Knight went after Seth Rollins last night after Seth Rollins had been interfering his matches of late. And then the match is now officially on for the Evolution pay-per-view. And we will see that. Talk about that a little bit here. There'll be a number one contendership battle royal. Okay, so okay. So signed for the matches we can talk about here. Obviously, previously signed, JC Jane will be defending the NXT Women's title against Jordan Grace. Also, there will be a number one contendership battle royal for the WWE Women's title, which was announced on last night's Raw by both Raw General Manager Adam Pearce and SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis. Let's see. The Judgment Days, Roxanne Perez and recent addition Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez will be defending the WWE Women's Tag Title in a fatal four-way, as the teams have yet to be announced for that. And also signed last night, Io Sky will be defending the WWE Women's World Title against Rhea Ripley. So those are the matches that have been thus far announced for Evolution. We'll find out more later on in the week here. So with that, that's all we have for the wrestling wrap-up. So now, with today being Tuesday, July the 1st, 2025, let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So, let me see. 2005, 1995, 1950, and 2005. All right. So, first off, I'm going to head back 75 years ago today. As on this date, 75 years ago today, back in 1950, so I'd bring that up here. The MGM cartoon, Safety Second, premiered on this date, premiered in theaters on this date back in 1950, 75 years ago. So, Jerry and Nibbles celebrate Independence Day. Nibbles wants to set off firecrackers, but Jerry would rather play it safer. So on this date, 75 years ago today, Safety Second premiered in theaters on this date back in 1950. Anyways, as we now continue on to the next piece of Nietzsche history here. As we move ahead to 1995, 30 years ago today, on this date in 1995, ECW held its Hardcore Heaven 1995 event from the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Main event saw the Public Enemy of Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge defeat the Gangstas, New Jack and Mustafa Saeed. In a match for the ECW World Heavyweight title, the Sandman, with Woman in his corner, retained over Cactus Jack. In a Taipei death match, Battle of the Brothers, as it were, Axel Rotten defeated Ian Rotten. In a match for the ECW World Tag Team titles, Raven and Stevie Richards, with Beulah McGillicuddy in their corner, defeated Tommy Dreamer and Luna Vachon to retain the ECW World Tag Team Championships. Let's see now. The opening match saw Dudley and Snot Dudley of the Dudley family, with Big Dick Dudley in their corner, defeat the Pitbulls number 1 and 2, with Beulah McGillicuddy, Raven, and Stevie Richards to start off the show. So 30 years ago today, ECW held its Hardcore Heaven event from ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, moving on to the next piece. So, moving on to the next piece in Niche history as we move ahead to the year 2005, 20 years ago today. On this date in the year 2005, the 25th issue of Bionicle from DC went on sale on this date back in 2005. It sold for $2.95 for 16 pages. The story was Birth of the Rahaga, written by Greg Farshley, with art by Randy Elliott. Kenny Lopez did the lettering, and Peter Pandazis did the coloring. So 20 years ago today, the 25th issue of Bionicle from DC Comics went on sale on newsstand on this day 20 years ago. Let's see now. Now, 2005 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. And also on this date in 2005, Studio Dean's On My Buddha premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2005. On My Buddha, known in Japan as Amanade Naide Yo, or Don't Act Spoiled, is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Toshinori Sogabe that was serialized in Comic Gum magazine from March 25th, 2004 to February 24th, 2007. An anime adaptation aired on TV Tokyo's anime satellite channel ATX between July and September 2005. So basically, on this day, on My Buddha, let's see. The protagonist of the series is the monk in training Ikoku Sadonaka, who transforms into a super monk with the ability to perform mass exorcisms for the girls he lives with. Note, in the anime, he transforms from seeing a naked girl. Your classic harem anime here. He lives in Sanji Temple as a Buddhist priest in training with 6 other nuns. So basically, it's your classic harem anime. But on this date, 20 years ago, it premiered in. And let's see, Doodlebug says Ikoku was Ikoku. Eco, yeah, Eco. Oh, Eco, yeah. All right. Thanks for. I thought there was another K in there, but I guess I mispronounced it. Thank you for letting me know that. Anyways, so with that, that's all I have for you guys tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. course, we will be back here with more Needs News tomorrow. This Sunday, of course, I'll have Rick Piper from Cross Comics joining me as we continue our look at comics went on sale in June of 1940. We will be looking at comics that on sale from Marvel. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.